Woo! Sweating absolute beads. Let's see, we're back here with Working While Black. We'll have a very special guest tonight who is going to be Hussain Chaudhry. So we're just hoping that he's able to log on with ease and we don't have any issues today. So really interesting topic. This whole series was only supposed to be a week and it's just blown up and it's just become what it is now. So we're going to have a little conversation sort of about Huss's... hello, Huss. I can see you. Just a request to join and we can start the conversation. And it's talking about personal experiences because I think we assume that it's sort of one experience and really, we all have very individual experiences. So I'd like to hear more about as a professional, as a leader, as a community activist, because it will certainly be different to mine. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what he's got to say. Hey!
It works.
We made it. Well, don't speak too soon. It will jinx it, you see, because we've been having really bad luck this week with trying to get people on. And I'm just hoping that it goes a bit better today. So welcome.
You're right there.
I'm trying to avoid the sun. I'm literally sweltering. Can you see the beads? The beads are dripping off my face.
A little bit.
Oh, I'm not gonna complain though, because when it's cold and we say, wow, I really want to go on holiday. I want to get some sun.
Yeah.
So here
tomorrow, because it's going to
rain. Exactly. Bring on the rains. We'll be really prepared. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. How did the day go? Really? How are you really?
Oh, long day. Not as long as it has been because I've been doing quite a few hours of overtime. But other than that, yeah, it's not been too bad. How about you?
Amazing. It's been really productive actually. So as you know, we have, I'm sort of on secondment right now. So we're working on a variety of different things around contact tracing and just trying to sort us out and develop some things to help us stay safe here. And that's currently where I am. So I'm really enjoying that. And that's really important to note. So yeah, thanks for agreeing to sort of be under the microscope today. I'm hoping the internet is friendly and that it will give us a chance to have this really important conversation. So could you start by just sort of introducing yourself a tiny bit, please?
Yeah, so I'm Huss. I'm one of the lead organisers for Rainbow Noir, he, him pronouns. And Rainbow Noir is basically a peer support group for people of colour that define as LGBTQI+. We do different sort of events, gigs, advocacy, activism, quite a range of different things that we kind of do. I also am a trained chef, so I've done got in there. And I do quite a few sort of community food-based projects and have done in the past as well. As well as being a BA in politics and
get it in
MA
there, come on.
In law. I know.
Who? Just say it again.
Who? MA.
What is it in? What is it in?
In law.
Oh, amazing. Just want to get that in there. And that might seem really silly, but, we've had the conversation. I continue to have the conversation with both people on my team and those outside that it's really important to celebrate what you've accomplished. And when we don't talk about it, it's like we accept the fact that that wasn't worth anything. And so people sort of, they criticize the fact that I put, everyone's letters on the website behind their name. And, I use the letters behind my name quite frequently. It's intentional. It's there to remind more us, but at the same time, hopefully remind other people that, we're bringing value into the workplace, we're bringing value into the sector, and we're adding value to our own communities and additional communities as well. So I just wanted to spend a bit of time recognizing that.
I think fantastic. So, we had that conversation, didn't we, really? Because I don't know why I've never done it before.
Well, we had the conversation yesterday. That's what I was saying. Yeah. So I'm really glad. I'm really pleased. I'm sure that everyone's sort of outside enjoying the sun right now, but we're inside having this important conversation, and that's okay. I just want to hear a bit about whether or not you feel like there were any sort of what your journey was, and into where you are now, and more in regards to if there were any barriers that you faced, or what your victories were as well.
Where to kind of start? So I always wanted to. I was one of those sort of nerdy people that I kind of had a direction. I had like a sort of aspiration and a career path that I thought this is what I'm going to do. And it started out with the imagination that I would start doing a politics degree. After that, I would go and do a proper job, whatever a proper job is. So I kind of decided law would be that route because I enjoy arguing.
Quite proper.
And quite proper. The Asian son. And then after that, I wanted to have my own restaurant and food business. So I trudged along on my little career path, loved politics, hated law, realized I need to do what I'm passionate about, which is food, and went down that path. I think kind of experiencing it as a person of color with my own kind of stubbornness. Like, I do come from, like, my family's quite supportive and they've always wanted to help me financially, but I've always kind of been like, no, I'm doing stuff on my own. And kind of experiencing the reality of it, that often the people making it in the food businesses, particularly in Manchester, aren't often people of colour. A lot of the sort of artisan food producers aren't, and a lot of the kind of barriers to that was mingling within those circles to kind of get the work that I needed to, as well as kind of being able to survive. So a lot of it led me down the route of sort of doing part-time work as well. And within some of that, I mean, I kind of recently at work shared my experiences of some of the barriers and some of the racism that I've had.
Right.
But I remember working in the NHS, and basically the conversation went on about going to news agents, and basically the derogatory word that they used to do with the origins of where I come from. They kind of said, oh, we'll go to the pea shop and like get some sweets, get some bits and bobs. And I was just kind of like, these are people that I considered my friends kind of working with. And you kind of like realize that there's more of it, stuff like that, which is probably a bit easier to call out. But then there's other things, like when I was working in some of the restaurants in Manchester, some quite big reputable ones, when they would basically look at CVs, they would just throw away CVs of names that they couldn't pronounce. And
Classic
you saw
move.
loads
Classic
of things
move.
like that. Yeah. And you saw a lot of things like that. You saw a lot of people as well that didn't really respect the experience of working in from like a Asian restaurant and like a sort of Asian street food perspective as well. A lot of people wouldn't consider it to be something that they would say is valid experience to work in some of the restaurants and silver service industry that I've worked in. And I think like a lot of those barriers were kind of there, and I'm kind of lucky now to be where I am working in finance, because I wanted to make that career change to go back into
finance.
Yeah. Well,
How does one enter finance? What do you call it?
Yeah. So for me, it was a bit of an active decision that I needed something that wouldn't wear me down, because I got to a point where really I was up against these barriers. I was constantly making ends meet, but I was making enough money to like live my life. But I needed that security, I needed that kind of stuff, and I needed a bit of sanity. And I also wanted to do something more for my community. And really got to a point where I was like, I can't continue down this path because of all these challenges that I face and all the kind of things that I sort of experienced. And for me, it was that career switch that actually has given me the support that I needed to realize that actually there are organizations that do take seriously underrepresented groups such as myself. And also kind of...
I mean, I think you massively honestly, I think you massively downplay sort of what you bring to the table generally. You know, can I just also add that, you know, Huss is always on our advisory board for Black Beetle Health, and you know, and this is quite a new thing, but there's a reason why I sort of invited Huss to come and join the advisory board, and it's because of the perspective that he brings. And you know, he's quite humble in speaking to you face to face, but behind the scenes, Huss is a force to be reckoned. He's a force to be reckoned with. He's not here to play, but to share all of his skills, bring all of himself, and that's, you know, something I just wanted to highlight there, because just in case you didn't get around to it.
Well, I kind of think like that's the thing though. Like, I'm the type of person that I kind of want to get on with the work. So I've always kind of been like a focused, like, this is what we need to do to get to here kind of thing. And I think like it's important because we always see a lot of people sort of front and center, which is important. And I kind of, when it's needed and when I kind of feel it's appropriate, I do kind of go front and center. But I think as well, there's a lot of stuff that needs to get done behind the scenes to further the cause. Because I think like one of the things that I've been talking about is how we need to collaborate more in terms of the UK networks and stuff when it comes to anything related to QT-POC and POC initiatives. I think part of why I got involved on the advisory board as well for Black Beetle Health is that kind of role that I can help to facilitate and bring that kind of expertise to that position.
Absolutely.
And I think
from all your areas, from all of your background.
Yeah, which is it's of a diverse background, and I think that's really added strength to the Black Beetle Health team. And I think as well for Rainbow Noir, it's something that I'm so passionate about. Like there's times where at night I'm thinking, right, this needs to be perfect, this needs to be this needs to be that, and I think like we all
it does
kind
keep
of
you awake
get
at
to
night.
that stage. But I think this, it does. But I think that's something when you're passionate about something. And you really want to kind of go down that route, that's kind of what you do. I think as well, the kind of reason I made the whole career change and got so involved in Rainbow Noir is because I kind of realised that we kind of have to do this for ourselves. I think it got to a point where I was so frustrated that people of colour in general were always sort of the tick box as opposed to the leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna say this is a safe space.
Yeah, and I think like it's one of those things now where and I think like that's one of the things though. It's great having allies and having support and all of that kind of stuff. But where we have the strength and we have the skill to kind of lead, we should be enabled to kind of lead that change. And I think that's where that kind of comes in.
And empowered, encouraged, if we get it wrong, a gentle correction, a gentle steer, a gentle bit of training, we're up for that, we're open for that, but being sort of just pawned is not always the most successful, strategy. I'm assuming that's what you, and I know that's what you're saying from my own experiences. I hear so much of others' experiences, my experiences as a part of that. So I'm just feeling like just stay in line, just get the job done. I want to ask, people who are as active as you and me, and we like to get our hands in things, we like to be busy. Lockdown, how lockdown was lockdown for you? And how are you faring?
Lockdown was very lockdown for me. It's still going on for me as well. So I live in like a multi-generational house. So one of the things that I obviously have to factor in is the shielding of other people within the house, as well as myself, because I'm high risk as well. So it's frustrating because I kind of want to be outside running and living my best life, but you kind of realize the importance of kind of shielding essentially, because ultimately that's kind of keeping me going. And I think having a very good routine has helped.
And I think that's a sacrifice that many people didn't realise, particularly not just for people in their own houses, people outside. We have older people who are just trying to go to Tesco's, they're just trying to get their food, and it's like, well, I'm just going to not, take precautions, I'm just going to go out unnecessarily, and that's something that people, I think, really ignored, and I think that's interesting that you mentioned that, even within your own house, that's what you were doing, and it's easier to do that with people that you love. But what about those we don't need? About those who are struggling with sort of other comorbidities or like other illnesses, and keep in mind, just to be, be more of a team player, being a I don't want to say like cliche, like be a good citizen, but what I think we're being called to be, which is just be a better citizen, just generally. I do want to ask as well, I can't just let things go on without acknowledging that, we've just had a massive movement that is still ongoing, and I don't want to feel. It was a bit like it might be a bit on the out fizzle, which is really I'm not really happy about that. But everything has a swell of plateaus, and I think we've got a strong plateau. But how you handle that plateau, we're working on recently in response to.
I think it's really about. So I can give you kind of Rainbow Noir's experience on this, because we essentially had an influx of just everything. Our social media feeds were inundated with messages. We had people experiencing racial trauma from members of Rainbow Noir. We had all sorts of stuff that was going on, and we kind of saw this swell of attention. And to me, I think a lot of that was to do with COVID and being in lockdown. So people had nothing on their feed other than this that was going on. So I think that's kind of where that momentum push has come from. I think the experiences are kind of different when we're looking at it, because I think people tend to frame it in much more of a US issue,
Oh,
whereas
absolutely, yeah.
they're in the US, there's still stuff ongoing there. They're still having protests. There's still that momentum. US companies
Right.
are really focused on it. I think when it comes to the UK, it's kind of like, let's kind of donate to organizations and that's it, and kind of let other people deal with
Box
stuff.
ticked.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that's how it kind of feels. And for a lot of us in the community who are activists and leading in groups like this, that was our biggest fear. And a lot of the stuff that myself and other people tried to do whilst there was that momentum was to gather the support we could and try to hold people to account, like people who have donated to
Absolutely,
us.
yeah.
We've asked that they commit to the long term. And they all will be, because we'll be checking
Yeah.
in a year
Yeah.
at a time to kind of see their
Yeah.
commitments. And I think there has been a
Well,
shift change.
you know.
Well, I think that's the thing, though. It's like you can't just buy your way out of a problem, because it
Absolutely not.
helps
Yeah.
in the short term, but I think the long term, that's where the engagement comes. And now that we've kind of had that for the first time that I can see, where people are actually starting to switch on and having that change. And I think a lot of organizations are having that discussion. From what I've seen and heard, I think they're all trying to wrap their heads around it and trying to learn and understand. And I think that's where it's kind of like when a newborn baby is kind of there. It's kind of there, and people may not know what to do with it, and it's still trying to like walk, and it will get there. I just think what we have to kind of focus on is realizing that slavery in itself for Black people has been going on
And
for
everyone thinks
like
it's
500
cute.
years. We've had slavery in the general term since antiquity and Greek times. We've had prejudice and racism for kind of generations, and those experiences have changed over time to specific historical contexts. But what I think are seeing is the start of the change for the mindset, and I think that's the most important thing, because we're essentially laying the foundations for progress, and it's going to take time, and sometimes we will get angry and frustrated, and it's really how we want to engage in that process, what we want to do ultimately, because I think you kind of have to realize you as an individual are unique. Like, you have unique experiences, unique assets that you can bring to that progress. And really what you need to do in yourself is to educate yourself to kind of be aware of situations such as racism, such as homophobia, any kind of discrimination that exists, and kind of think what you can do in your world, and that's it.
Sorry, it was a bit delayed.
I was just saying, it's basically using your unique assets and your talents and your skills to kind of affect that progress and change in the way that you can do. And I think that's where we're starting to see that momentum build.
You know, and a friend of ours, you know, she did a presentation recently at the Great Manchester LGBT Culture Conference, and there's just that question it's just stuck with me whenever I get a chance is, do you even care though, allies, you know, and in many ways even asking, you know, ourselves and those in the community, like, do you care? Do you care enough about being mistreated? Do you care about seeing others mistreated? Do you care about having a quote unquote better world for your own children or the next generation? You know, do you care? Because if you don't care, then, you know, what we're seeing is expected. You know, if you don't care, then of course you're not going to donate. If you don't care, of course you're not going to, you know, try and invoke change, or, you know, within your own organisation. So of course you're not going to do that because you don't care. But the question still remains: do you care though? You know, we're starting to see who cares and who doesn't, you know, through this, you know. And even, you know, this series that we're doing, you know, we've had such a wide range of attendees. Some people have, you know, we've had quite a few attendees and some we haven't. But what we're building here is posterity, and being able to say that actually we did this. And people have gone back and they'll view this, and they'll be caused to sort of think about their own experiences. And so, you know, keep on talking, you know, is what I say, and keep having those conversations both here and outside, because we're building that story, being a part of that change. It's not someone else's responsibility, it's not someone else's story. It's what we're producing right now. So, yeah. I do want to ask you sort of what you think, where you think this is all going. Contributing to this, you know, some of us are seeing the immediate change. Some of us are getting funded for the first time, or we're sort of celebrating that. That's really exciting. Or maybe we're funded. You know, where do you think what's happening next? You know, looking at history, looking at the present, thinking about the future. What's your
I think it's difficult because it's kind of recognizing the diversity and the unique sort of strengths that each sort of community has, that I kind of call the marginalized communities, but unifying
is that really loud, Huss?
No.
Okay.
What was it?
It's a train just passing by.
It's a train? Okay. Yeah, so I think it's like, it's difficult for me to kind of like think of the future, in all honesty. I think I'm hopeful that like we can see some kind of, change. But I think one of the things that I am seeing for the first time is that queer people of colour in particular are finally being heard and sort of visible. And what excites me more is that we're getting things like the Queer Gym, which is QT led. We're getting Black Beetle Health. We've got Rainbow Noir. We've got Team Prepster. We've got spaces like Fubu and The Outlet. There are things actually going on. And what excites me more is that all of the stuff that has focused in the news and the attention and the stuff that's happened is now actually actively helping these groups to raise their profiles. And I think in the long term, like, you know, one of the things that I am quite passionate about is actually having the physical space for QT pop people in Manchester in particular, because that's where we're kind of located. Somewhere that's QT pop led and where we can facilitate those spaces for the wider community as well as QT pop people, because I think like we have such a rich talent and culture, and what I'm seeing is that is starting to be nurtured. So I'm hopeful that through that nurturing and through the different industries people are working in, we can start to show that we exist and to take us seriously. And
just keep going. Everyone just keep going. You know, I think there are people who are starting things up and it's scary. They're thinking this will probably fizzle out. No, it doesn't have to. If Tesco said we'll probably sell a few fruits and veg and we'll just see what happens, we wouldn't have Tesco's or Sainsbury's or Asda. All these massive organisations. The NHS will probably just like make carefree for like a few people. We'll just see how it goes. See what the people say. You know, we wouldn't have these massive things, that we sort of respect as really big businesses. So, you know, I just want to keep going, keep pressing, keep applying, have a long-term goal, you know, that sort of keeps them going. What should we be doing more of at this time? Huss, what do you think?
Say that again?
What should we be doing more of?
What we should be doing more of?
Yeah.
I think for me, it's collaboration. Right now, I think there's a lot of stuff out there, and what we need is more of a sort of an understanding that the only way we're going to be able to bring about change is to kind of unify and essentially create that change. I think we're stronger as QT POC organisations and POC organisations if we band together to get some tangible actions going. I think ultimately we have to hit everything on different fronts. That's from societal change to financial change, because I think there should be things like a POC fund. There's a lot of organisations that use investment vehicles as a way to fund work as well as to sustain organisational change for things like that. There's also the area of politics that we often as community activists don't want to engage with because of how constantly disappointing it can be and how tiring it can be, and we want to put our efforts a lot of the time with...
Can we just say tiring? Can we just emphasize the tiring aspect?
The tiring. And I think like it's one of those things that we do need to start focusing more on, how we get towards the political side to enact change. Ultimately, I think like if we're just hitting it on a few fronts, the real change and the real power in the UK, unfortunately, is Parliament, and it is that kind of system that exists because of the amount of power that they have and the way it changes. You look at countries like the US where, okay, Trump and Congress might not be moving much, but the states are moving within days to enact change, and that is something that you we wouldn't have here. So I think you have to kind of look at it from the societal aspect of how we're working in our different professions from the community perspective to enact change. Things like Black Beetle Health, things like the Queer Gym, things like Rainbow Noir, hitting it on all different fronts, as well as kind of the collaboration effort, which hopefully will continue and will grow from strength to strength.
Absolutely,
There's
yeah.
talks about what we're going to do, and then the politics side.
And it doesn't mean merge. I think people get confused. Like, oh, just merge it. It's all going to become one thing. We want to empower people to do their own thing, but to work collaboratively, which is quite different. And so, yeah. And what about what we should be doing less of? I'm asking what we should be doing more of, which is collaboration. What should we be doing less of?
Yeah, I think
during this time.
That's a difficult question. I think I kind of think I think sometimes what I've seen is, and people are justified in their anger and the way they want to express themselves. But I think kind of what we need to do less of really is, and it might sound a bit controversial, but I see people who are constantly arguing and battling on social media right now. I'm not going to name people because I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to name people who are platformed by social media to express views and opinions that I think are abhorrent and against what I would call humanity. And I think what we need to do less of really is engaging with these people. You've got to remember, on social media, algorithms work on engagement. Wow, so every time you are commenting on their post, every time you're doing anything like that, it's shooting them up in popularity, it's increasing their following, and it's doing things like that. Yeah. So I think one of the things we need to start maybe doing less of is engaging with these people, because ultimately social media can be a powerful tool. It can spread information, it can also spread disinformation, and ultimately I think one of the things when it comes to changes like this is the human element. Like the way that I foresee us changing things is not having an argument with Uncle Bob on social media about racism. It's actually meeting him face to face. It's having those kind of things and showing
get around the table.
There are people. Yeah, and I think like it's one of those things that we have to stop engaging with people that are creating brands around racism and discrimination and colorism and homophobia, and we need to actively kind of do that. Now, I know there's a lot of people that disagree with that and say that we shouldn't live in echo chambers, but you can still follow someone and not engage. You can still do other things as well, because ultimately, if people want to live in an echo chamber, that is where they are going to live. And the only way we can break echo chambers isn't by following more people on social media that we might disagree with. It's actively engaging with those people outside of social media. It's actively doing things like having workplace discussions on subconscious bias. It's on having events that Rainbow Noir do, where we can platform things like amazing spoken word and some of the creative stuff there to share those experiences, because then people can experience a different perspective. It's not, unfortunately, going to come from arguing on social media with
on social media, which goes nowhere. You know, I'm getting the vibe that you like rehearsed this. Did you get your hands on my questions like ahead of time or something? Like, you know, why was it so good?
You're forgetting that MA.
You know. Yeah, oh, the MA. I had the BA in mind. I forgot about the MA. Forgot about that degree. So, well, I mean, how can we get in contact with you? So people who might have heard this conversation, they might watch the playback and really feel connected. I want to get in contact with you, sort of in a capacity, or just to hear more about your own personal views, or maybe talk about the work that you do. How can people get in contact with you?
Yeah, I mean, Rainbow Noir is probably the best platform to kind of get me on, because I like to keep my organising and my personal separate a little bit. But best way is Instagram and Rainbow Noir, and I'll pick up the message. There's a lot of stuff that at the moment, we're trying to actively do, whether that be through platforms like this, takeovers. Like at the moment, Chloe is one of the founders of Rainbow Noir and Colours Youth Festival is doing the takeover.
Well, she'll tell you she's not a founder of Rainbow Noir. She'll tell you she's strategic lead. She's very clear about that. She doesn't like to take credit for being the founder, but yeah. But when we
she doesn't, but she needs to.
Yeah, I know.
She needs to. And I think like, Yeah, I am at the moment. I'm just trying to build on the momentum that we have, and I
Yeah,
am willing to talk to anyone, say anything, engage in any way that I can, because I think it's really important right now. In particular, I
yeah.
mean, we've been doing this for a long time, but I think
Hmm.
I feel that I've gotten to a point where just I have to do something more. So
Yeah, and we're loving the energy. You know,
yeah,
I love that I can text you or ring you and know I'm going to get energy. And if you don't have to say I don't have energy, but catch me first thing tomorrow morning, I'll give you some energy. You know, I love that. I love that you're encouraging us to reach out and to work collaboratively and to share our woes and that's what it's all about. And I'm
yeah,
really glad that you're a part of this in every capacity that you mentioned today. And I really, yeah, I just hope that it will not be the last time that we speak. And I hope that those who watch this playback will suck up some of that knowledge and be, you know, an amazing thing. So thank you so much for being my guest today.
no
Again,
problem.
if you want to check out our website, it's at blackbeetlehealth.co.uk. If you want to get in contact with Huss, you can reach him either on Rainbow Noir's, direct message them on Rainbow Noir's Instagram, or by emailing him at, I don't remember what your email is at Black Beetle Health. You can go on the website.
Host,
Yeah,
yeah, it's Huss.Chaudhry at blackbeetlehealth.com. Is it com
yes.
or UK?
It's UK. Huss, he's
Is
new
it
to the team.
UK?
It's
I am
okay.
new to the
But
team. I just got my email.
yes,
I just figured out how to access it as well, so I'm learning. You know me and technology.
amazing.
Certain technology I'm good with, but yeah.
Anyways, but thank you anyway for being on this platform, and I hope that you can enjoy the rest of the heat, the sweltering heat. Try and get a bit of it before the. So thanks again.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
It's a bit delayed, but I'll talk to you later on. Okay. Bye.